guys, it is Laurie of Laurie's Sewing, and today is Friday. It's already July the 9th. Crazy. I am expecting my remote control for Big Beast, my camcorder that I'm using today, and then next Wednesday the new boom for Big Beast, and even Little Beast over there. I don't think he's in the shot. Let's see. He's kind of hiding back there. There he is. Both of them should work on the boom, which will attach to this table on the edge over here. And they'll be way up in the air, and that'll give me the opportunity to attempt overhead shots, which is what I have been wanting. I decided to go with a clamp style boom that has a huge range of motion, and when it arrives I'll open it on camera so that you can see. And in the event that you either now have a YouTube channel or an opportunity where you can post videos, or you have a thought that you might want a boom camera for something that you're doing. I know it would be great for a cooking channel, but for my purposes, I wanted something overhead. I actually tried to hold Little Beast in my lap while I was sewing one time, and no, that's not gonna happen. That doesn't work. It's just not a thing that you can do. So anyway. Additionally, I have some other parts and pieces of the project I'm currently working on, which is this shirt. View B, by the way. I noticed that when I was editing the video that I posted yesterday, that I will link below this video in the description box, that I kept saying view C. This live version is view C. Down here you can see it clearly says C. This is view B. Down here you can see that it clearly says B. I meant to say B. I ended up saying C and drove myself crazy during the editing process, and decided I would just do a clarifying video where everybody could kind of be like, oh, she's being Laurie again. So anyway, I don't know that there's a whole lot that I can do today, but I'm going to try to see if there might be some pieces of this shirt that I've never made before that I could do without messing up something else. I need the Fusible interfacing, which is due today, I think. The buttons don't arrive until tomorrow. This is all according to shipping notifications that I receive from Amazon. Of the things, okay, that I have ordered that are supposed to arrive within the next few days would be the Fusible interfacing, the buttons, and I don't know if I can make anything, if I can stitch anything together on this shirt pattern without the items that I don't have. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, in the video that I made yesterday, I wanted to do a little sample of how to check to make sure that your stripes are lined up correctly when you are cutting out your stripy fabric for your whatever it is that you're making out of stripy fabric. And I cut out this little heart shape, which is part of a pattern that I got. It's a simplicity pattern, and it is for a pincushion. I decided what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and stitch it up. Get these stripes lined back up again. And I am checking, both sides, but I'm going to put BBs in it because that's what I do for my pattern weights. And I like this size. By the time I get this stitched up, it will of course be smaller, and I can put my Crossman Copperhead Precision Copper Coated Steel BBs in here. This thing is heavy. I have a whole bunch of these that I made from that pattern. It is a triangle shaped pattern piece, but they have BBs and fiber fill, cotton fiber fill in here. They're very weighty. They were not, the BBs were not measured. So some, like this one, is heavy, but it's not as heavy as this one. This one has a few more BBs in it. But when I saw this yesterday, I thought to myself, that would make a cute little pattern weight. They don't all have to be standy-uppy. They can be flat. We have pattern pieces that are very big and we just need something to hold them down. And a heart shape is a perfect shape for a lot of reasons. Yeah, this is the shirt back. So if you're using pattern weights, triangles are great because they will get into a corner and they will line up on a side. Okay, it'll be fun having a remote control. All right, so this point right here will fit right into that corner, and this side is right along the side, holding more than just one little section of the pattern down onto the fabric. And this needs to be retied in a bow. The thing of it is, with a triangle, obviously, you have three sides. So I can put a straight side here, and then come along and put another straight side there. And then, if I get back up here, I can do this, and then this. And this just really offers a lot of weight to hold this down and keep it in place while I'm cutting. This right here is a perfect shape to just hold it in place. It may not fit, you know, on a side, but it might. The nice thing about a heart shape is it will fit into a corner, and it will also fit if you have, for example, right here. So you've got two parts of the heart which will hold this curvy section down. I see an area that I need to trim a little bit, but that's why I decided I'm going to just go ahead and turn this into a pattern weight instead of a pin cushion. So that's what I'm going to do here real fast. I'm going to use Brother Louie, which is the sewing machine that I have over here on this table. The reason that I moved Brother Louie to this spot is this Sew Steady acrylic table. It was just not working on the other table where we just were. There we go. Okay. I'm not going to worry about changing out the thread and the bobbin. It won't match my project. But the issue with Brother Louie, the one and only issue that I have, I can't blame the machine for my not knowing how to do a reverse stitch. I've tried a couple of things. I'm not sure. It may be broken. It might actually be that this sewing machine is broken, and that is why reverse doesn't seem to work. But I don't know because I haven't read the book. I suppose I ought to do that. In any case, the only issue I have is the phenomenal amount of thread waste every single time I change thread or the bobbin. The amount of thread waste is heartbreaking to me, and I'm hoping, seriously hoping, that in short shrift I'll be able to fix it so that that's not an issue. But at the moment it just blows my mind. Okay, so now I have this. I've got to re-thread the needle because it came undone. Oh, I need like a sharp pointy thing. It's one of the things that I have come to greatly appreciate more and more about George, my Bernina. And you guys know I am not paid by anybody for anything ever, and I am most certainly not paid by any sewing machine company, so I'm just giving you my honest opinion about these things. Alright, I'm going to try to stay on the 1/4 inch right here. I always feel like it's just so much more than 1/4 of an inch, but alright, and needle down. Is it always needle down? I think it's always needle down, and I have to lift to get needle up. I really need to read the book on this. So here we go. Okay, and I just, went over it a couple times, so I don't have to back up. Alright, so I will now cut the thread. I have quite a bit of it here. Looks like I got off a little bit right there, but in the end, it's okay. I'll just trim it off. I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's a pattern weight. And a rather rustic farmhouse kind of looking one at that. Okay, so the next step is to just open up my side opening right here and put in some BBs. And again, I've never weighed these. When you purchase an iron, you often get a product with your iron that looks like this. If it's a steam iron, this is the vessel that they provide for you to pour water from this into your iron. This one has a very pointy little spout, and I think it came with the Aliso iron. I'm not sure. The Aliso iron that is no more. And we'll see if this works for pouring BBs into this project. I think you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to lay this down carefully. Obviously you cannot fill this too full because you don't want your needle to hit a BB and you don't want them spilling out everywhere. So I'm going to back up to here. I've got all the BBs pushed out of the way, she said, hoping that they were all pushed out of the way. Here we go. Come on, Brother Louie. Come on, you can do it. Okay. Now I feel fairly confident that I have managed to seal up all of the points of possible escape that a BB could make. But I am going to check it. Yep, looks like we're pretty good. I have no idea how much this weighs, but I do know that it's heavy enough that it will hold a pattern down. It feels very nice and weighty. Okay, and if I want to, I can kind of rough up the edges and make it a little bit more rough around the edges, but I suspect that with use, you know, that'll be forthcoming. You could also just kind of pull some threads, I guess, depending on how you want to do it. The other thing you can do is clip to your stitching, but that will stop it from fraying. It will just, it's like a pinked edge and it won't fray as much. So I'm just going to let this be wear and tear. I could swoonch it up like so, and anyway, it will go with the rest of my pattern weights, and we'll see how it fares in its new purpose in life. So now it says, stay stitch the front and the yoke back neck edges a 1/2 inch from the cut edge in the direction of the arrows. So that is important, and the reason that's important is it helps maintain the shape that you want these pieces to maintain. And it pushes the fabric fibers in such a way that it can cause problems if you don't do it in the manner that they suggest. I know it sounds kind of weird, but once you've been sewing for a while, you suddenly start to understand the relationship between your sewing machine, what it does to the fabric when you're stitching, and the thread and the sewing machine and the fabric that you're stitching. They all interplay together. You know, it's like you think to yourself, oh my gosh, my mind has been blown. There is a reason why we use a specific needle size. There is a reason why we use a specific type of thread, or even a size of thread. Yep, I said thread. So all these things come into play, as does the direction that you're sewing. So if we were to stitch this way from the neck edge up to the shoulder, it would push these fibers in that direction. And this is a curved edge, which ends up being what's called bias. It is cut at a 45-degree angle, or maybe not quite 45 degree, but it makes that particular cut stretchy. It's warm outside. Anyway, back to sewing. So I have marked with arrows the direction that the 2 yolks are supposed to be stay stitched. So this one and this one, and then the front piece where the collar goes, not the arm side, although it could require it as well. At this point I don't know. I am going to just go ahead, once I'm done with the pattern piece, I'm just going to put it back in the envelope so I don't lose it. Alright, so these 2 will be stitched, and then this one I need to mark. There are a tremendous number of markings on these 2 front pieces that I have not done yet. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these, and then we'll do the stay stitching. So the way I do that is I look down here at the bottom, and if I don't see any circles, which I don't, there is one right here at the very lower edge, and I'm sure that has something to do with the hem. Normally I would just measure that, but I'm going to go ahead and mark it this time. I'm using a friction ink pen. Okay, so I've got my mark right here, and I'm just going to, there's a little dot right there where the ink flow went through. So I'm going to mark and then allow that to come through to the other side. So now all of the points that I would need for this little dot to be marked have been marked, and I don't have to worry about that. So I can flip this up underneath, and now I'm going to look. I see a lot of lines. There is a smudge of ink on this pattern right here. Like the ink just kind of smeared when they made the pattern, and it's a little bit confusing and looks a little scary because it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? But it's just a smudge, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now I am going to take my, if I can find it, there it is. I have a 6.5 inch OmniGrid square that I like to use when I am marking patterns, like this one. So I can pop this under the pattern. My pattern is face down on my fabric, but I can see these lines through this pattern paper. And all I have to do is look for the lines I need, and then just by pushing underneath like this, I can get that OmniGrid right where I need it to be. Okay, so this right here, and this right here. Check, see if I got it marked. Okay, I did. Alright, and then I'll move this pen and do the same thing, because there's another corresponding mark down underneath the one I just did. And I just realized that I did the first one incorrectly, so I'm going to just scratch that off. Okay. All right. So to my knowledge, everything has been marked. I'll double check to make sure. So that's the dart. I don't need to worry at all about view A or view D. This is for the pocket. I did mark that, and the bottom. Okay. Alright, so now I can put this back in the pattern envelope. The first pattern piece that you use in this particular design will tell you about ease. This one has the ease information, and if you're not familiar with ease, there are a lot of really good videos out there on YouTube describing ease. I think if you just searched explain sewing pattern ease, you'll come up with quite a few. Alright, there is this. So, at this point, even without the interfacing buttons or ribbon, we should easily be able to do the stay stitching on this and the yoke, and the dart on these two front pieces. I'm not doing a pocket, so I don't need to worry about that. So next would be to gather up that back yoke. I'm going to go ahead and pin these. So the way you do this is you just bring these two lines together and just fold this to the inside. Obviously we wouldn't want that on the outside of our garment, and match up those lines up to that point right there. If you hold your fabric up, if it's a lightweight fabric, you should be able to see if your lines are matching up. If you hold them up to a window, a light box or a window is like one of the best sewing room extras that you can have, in my opinion. I don't have a light box, but they're very handy for a multitude of reasons. But if you get this point matched, then you should very easily be able to get this part matched. So match up the point and then match up this, and the rest of it will just fall into place. And then I mark or pin mine like so across those lines rather than horizontally. Okay, so do both of those. So match up that point, just pinch it like that and pop a pin in there like this vertically, and then come back here and find both of those lines. Okay, there they are, match them up, and everything else just falls into place. Like so. Alrighty, let me get my sewing machine pulled into place. Back you guys up a little bit. There we go. George is threaded with white Gutermann. It is a, I believe, polyester blend, both in the bobbin and in my needle. I'm going to start down here at the bottom, like so. Okay, I'm going to end up tying the bobbin thread and the needle thread into a knot at the bottom of this dart rather than going backwards and forwards. I don't want that globby mess on my shirt. So Now I can do the lock stitch at this end, but not down here. This would be visible and it would be very ugly. I don't want to sew over this pin, so I manually drop my needle. I don't know if you have a sewing machine that you don't have to manually do that, but I don't want to take a chance and break my needle. Oh, I need to put it, okay. Alright, so when you have finished stitching, take your bobbin thread, I could feel it getting pulled, but unsnarl it if it's snarled up on you like mine did. Okay, and then tie your 2 threads into a double half knot. That means you're going to loop it around more than once, and then pull it tight, and then do that one more time. So through and through again a couple of times, and pull it tight, and then you can cut these threads. Put that in your thread holder, and that is your first start. Okay, so there is one thing that I want to point out, and that is I'm sewing stripes, and I'm taking my shirt fabric here and I'm trying to have an angle put in with this dart. So I have a wide, and I'm moving from wide to narrow, which means it's going to be at an angle. So if I fold this back where that will end up, I'll just pin it on that line so you can see what I'm referring to. Okay. It's going to cause distortion in the stripes, and there really won't be that much you can do about it unless you cut your fabric in such a way. And honestly, you would have to know the distance between the dark stripes and the white stripes, and then you'd have to try to figure out how far out you'd have to go in order to get this stripe here to perfectly line up with this stripe and this, and so forth and so on. It probably can be done, and in couture settings I'm sure it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I don't want to stitch over a pin. I think my... Now, one thing I would suggest you think about, if this is all new to you, is that you stitch your darts with a basting stitch first. And if you don't like the way it looks, then you can just pull those out. Unless you're using the fabric I'm using, in which case it does not like to give up thread once it has been stitched. So be real mindful of that. Okay, now I'm going to tie these 2 threads at the point of my dart. I'm going to tie them in a knot. I'm going to do a double half knot, which means I'm going to loop that through twice. Oh, it broke off. Oh boy. Well, since it broke off, I'm going to turn this around. Oh, it didn't. Okay, I thought there was a thread back here somewhere. Isn't that funny? I should have held on to these when I was stitching, but I didn't. So I've got to pull this out like so. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a double half knot. And another double half knot, and be very careful that you don't pull this really tight at the point where it meets the fabric, or you'll end up with a little pucker down there that you don't want. And then I'll trim off my threads, carefully avoiding the knot. Okay, now remember, this is going to be distorted. It's not going to look lined up. So there it is. It's shifted off a bit, but it's a dart on a shirt, and honestly, I don't find it to be offensive. So we'll do both of those. I'll get the other one off camera. And then these will be stitched again, same stitch length, which, by the way, I didn't mention before, it is 2.75. And this is the stay stitching, so I'm going to go from this shoulder around to the center where I have drawn a line right here, and then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the same thing and go to the center. So and you don't have to do lock stitches on this. I think I can see, no I can't. I'll draw my lines on the opposite side. You don't have to catch that middle part because this is not going to stretch. This is part of the fabric right here that's stable. It's this curve that's not stable. Okay, so there's that stay stitching, and you don't want to play with it, you know, to say, oh look, it's not stretching, because it will still stretch. If you pull on it hard enough, it will definitely still stretch. But this is just a precaution against, you know, a crazy amount of distortion on your fabric. So that one has been done. I'm going to trim that thread right there. I think when I come back, I'm going to go have lunch, but I think after I do this one, I think when I come back, I'm going to change my sewing machine needle. Well, actually, I've already just unthreaded it. It's not that there's anything wrong with it, and I don't feel any burrs. It's not an older needle, but it's too big for this particular fabric. So I'm going to put this in here. Anytime I put a sewing machine needle in one of my needle keeps or a pin cushion, I know that it's fine and I can continue to use it for other projects. It doesn't have many hours on it, in other words. So let's see what I have. I would like a microtex. This might work. This is a ballpoint needle. We may try that. Okay, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing with this one, and we'll see how the needle reacts to this fabric. Remember, it's a ballpoint 8012. It's lovely, by the way. I'm not feeling any issues at all. Okay, flip this over. Okay. Alright, so these have been stay stitched. Alright, so we have 2 fronts with darts. Oh, we've also got to stay stitch the front neck edge of the 2 fronts, which I will do off camera, and I will see you guys back here in just a flash. So in all honesty, when you're sewing these stay stitches, truly you need to stitch from the right side of the fabric both times, or from the wrong side of the fabric both times. So while it would be easier for me to stitch this one if I flipped it over and stitched it this way, because you go from the shoulder to the neck edge, it would not be correct because this one has already been stitched with the needle thread on the top and the bobbin thread on the bottom. I don't want to switch it and have needle thread on the bottom and bobbin thread on the top. So to just deal with that, you can actually put your fabric in like this and stitch backwards. Just put your machine in reverse and guide it through so that the fabric is coming towards you instead of going away from you. But you can also stitch this way. Further over, and if it feels unnatural, just don't go as fast as you might normally go if your fabric were on the other side. And the same is true for if you're just going to do it backwards, stitching in reverse. My hardest part is keeping the fabric out of the way. And you don't want to stretch it. Okay, I drifted a little bit out of my seam allowance as I came down that corner, but I think it'll be okay. It's still going to hold my fabric in the appropriate way. Alright, so I have both of the front pieces stay stitched and the darts made. I need to find out what the second step in the dart process is. They do tell you to do that knot right there. It says do not backstitch at the point. And the reason again for that is, just to reiterate, you will end up with kind of a gobby mess on the front of your shirt fronts, and you just don't want that. You want a nice neat finish. Across the top of the back, that sounds really strange, but we have the yoke piece, this right here, that will go across the shoulders and the upper part of the back, and then it meets up with this part. So this is the back and this is the top of the back. We are supposed to gather up the center part of the back. Right, so we'll drop that down and we're going to do an eighth of an inch from the top edge. And here we go. Okay, remember, don't back up. You want this to be kind of loose and easy to pull. Okay, make sure it's still straight. And I have to tell you guys, this ballpoint needle, 8012 ballpoint, is really, so far, making a massive difference. Okay, I'm going to use my feed dog on the edge of that first row of stitching so I know I'm straight. and I'm just going to go. Okay. Right. Now in the past, when I've done a gathering stitch, I've reminded you that you want to do your pulling from the bobbin side, not the needle side. So what I'm going to do is tie the needle threads and the bobbin threads together on this side in kind of a loose knot. Obviously I'm going to have to go, over the top, and I don't want to have to make a big mess to untie it. So here they are, right here, and I'm just gonna now the thing about this gathering is it needs to pull the back piece up enough so that this will fit the yoke, because the next step is to pin the back yoke. Let's see what it says. Yep. Okay, so with right sides together like this, I'm not going to remove any of these threads until I know everything is the way it's supposed to be. But now I have to remember these are on this side. This is the needle thread side, the right side. So if I need to gather it more, I need to pull from the back like so. Okay? Now with right sides together, we're going to take this piece and pin and we don't have to worry about matching stripes, because lo and behold, using our instructions, we've cut the back yoke directionally different. All right. Now I want to make sure that these gathers are evenly distributed across the back. They don't necessarily have to be gathered up anymore. They just have to be evenly distributed from one side to the other. I'm going to do a figure 8 on this pin with these threads so they won't move, like so, and then I can kind of play with my gathers. Okay, perfect. But I got a pin from the other side. Okay. That looks really nice and neat. And it says to pin the yoke back to the back, matching the notches, pull up the gathering stitches to fit, and then baste. I can't stand wasting thread to baste. So I'm going to double check and see if I can find the other page of instructions. If basting is absolutely a requirement or if it is just a suggestion. I'm not telling you not to baste, I'm just saying I don't care for that. If I don't have to do it, I hate wasting the thread. Okay, so we have basted the yoke in place. And now we are supposed to put the yoke facing this piece. On the inside, with right side of yoke back facing to the back, and then with this we're going to match the notches and have the raw edges even. So basically what that looks like after I baste, which in this case I need to baste, and I know why, and it'll all make sense in a minute. So that's on a baste. Let me just go ahead and do it, and then I'll show you what that meant. Now when I do this, I like to do it from the side that has the gathers. I want to be able to see these. So my pins are pinned in kind of different, but I am going to baste right here. Actually, I'm going to draw a line, because while I can see what I'm doing here, or I can see these lines here, I cannot see them when it's up here. So I don't have to draw a complete line, I just need to draw kind of dash lines. Okay, now I'm going to open this up and just make sure that I got it as straight as I possibly could. Yes, that looks very nice. I do like the way it turned out. These are basting threads. I'm not going to remove them, but I am going to trim them because, well, I don't like threads hanging around. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just leave this like so. Just like this. So the back of the right side of the yoke is facing the right side of the back. And then we're going to take the facing piece, and with the right side to the inside of this, we're going to pin so that our notches match and the edges. Whoa, what is happening here? Oh, I have it upside down, my gosh. I was like, what is happening? So right side of the facing will be on the wrong side of the shirt, like so. And it's going to go just like this. We'll pin that in place. Match up those two notches that are on the lower edge of the facing, and just go all the way across to the end like so. Use a lot of pins or just a couple pins, whatever you're comfortable with. Like this. Now what will happen is this right here. So you want the right side of the facing to show with the wrong side of the inside of the back of the shirt, like this. Okay? But we're not ready for that part yet. We're going to leave that like so, and we are going to stitch through all thicknesses and then trim our seam. And I'll talk about trimming the seam too in just a minute. I'm going to use this basting stitch that I just did to just stitch right on top of that as I go all the way across, because I know that that is the way I want it to look. Okay, now, I don't have any pins, so I want to double check. That looks like it stayed exactly the way I wanted it to. Okay. So here's the thing about trimming this seam. So this right here is the outside, obviously, of your shirt. If you trim these two pieces of fabric, this one, the facing, and the back piece, not this one, not the yoke piece, but just these two, then you can fold this piece up and press it if you want to. You can do a zigzag stitch along that raw edge if you want to, but it just kind of helps pare down some of the bulk. I do recommend that you are very, very careful in doing this part right here. Just keep checking to make sure you're not catching this fabric. In fact, if you want, you can hold it up like I often do and just keep pressing that down with your forefinger. Keep it out of the way of your scissors. If you have some duckbill scissors, those are very helpful for something like this. Still got some thread over here I need to get rid of. Alright. Now we're not placing so the next thing we're going to do is open this out like so and drop the facing down so that it's down here like so. Then we're going to take the front sections right sides together and pin them to the shoulder, the shoulder top edge of the front to the shoulder top edge of the back yoke. Make sure that you have, in other words, you're not doing it like this. This needs to be the front edge right here. Okay, and in other words, you would want your notches to match. Now my shoulder at the front of the shirt and my shoulder at the yoke, the back yoke, don't have stripes to match up, just like this does not have stripes to match up. So I can just go ahead and pin it. And we're not going to stitch this just yet, but do a nice pin, like maybe two. Actually, I fear I may be using pins that are too long. I'm going to use my white glass head pins. There is quite a size difference in the length. This is a white glass head, and this is one of my crystal head pins. But if I put the heads together like so, you can see maybe there's a big difference in the length, and I think the crystal head pin is too long for this step. So I'm going to use the white pins just to be on the safe side. And I'll show you why in just a minute. You know how I feel about being stabbed. I don't like it. It happened. I've already managed to ouch, get stabbed and have a little bit of a bloody accident there on my back of my shirt, which is irritating. Fortunately, it'll wash right out. This is cotton. Okay, now, I know that's yucky, but it's kind of a fact of sewing. Okay, so that stays like it is, and now we're going to do same thing. And again, we'll match up the notch on this to the notch on the yoke. And there should be a notch in the center of the front that I'll show you in just a moment that will match right down the front where the buttons would go. And again, I won't be able to match the stripes because they're cut differently. All right, and here is one notch right here, and here is the other notch right here, and they should be facing each other. Okay, so with the back floral, in my case, facing, just hanging down, and the shoulders of the front and the shoulder section of the yoke pinned together, I need to push this back as far as I can. Okay, this is where it could get a little tricky. We are going to take the front two sections and the back section, and we're just going to roll them up like so. Make sure this is staying down like that. And when we get up here to the top, we should see the yoke section hanging down below, and lo and behold, there it is. So we're going to keep rolling a little bit more like this, and then we're going to pick this piece up right here and go over the top of what we just rolled like so. Let me do that again. So we've got these front and back sections, we've just rolled it up. We're going to roll it up past this little seam right here, and we're going to pick up this yoke piece. It should be facing us with the right side up like it is, not wrong side but right side, and we're just going to go right over the top of this rolled fronts and back section. And now we are going to pin these all together. So we're going to take this and replace this pin like that. I'll take this one out and pin it, and just take the pin out and then go through to the yoke and the yoke facing. Make sure that your raw edges are even like this. Go ahead and do both. Your notches should match, of course. I don't like where I pinned that one. Let me get that a little bit better. There we go. Ouch. And now we are going to stitch and stitch. You want to make sure when you're stitching, of course, that your rolled section does not get caught by the sewing machine. You don't want to stitch that in with the yoke that we're about to sew. And this could be a little awkward, but this is the method. And do lock your stitches unless you want to stitch first and then check and then go back and restitch. Don't stitch over any pins. I would not want to advocate messing up your sewing machine. So all layers have been stitched. We did not catch the front and back pieces. Clip these threads off of here. Alright, now here's the magic. We're going to take the front like so and pull these two front and back sections through an opening. It might be a little difficult, but this is the way this goes. You just pull this through carefully, not tearing any seams or hurting the fabric. I'm going to go all the way across. So you go from one armhole to the other. You pull it all the way through, all the way through, all the way through. And if you've done it correctly, you will see what I'm seeing. And then you will flip this to this side. And voila! So your facing that you want to show on the inside is visible, like so, and your shirt front and back are stitched together right across the shoulders, and those seams are on the inside, so you don't have a raw seam right there. Isn't that nice? Now the nice thing about it is any shirt that you make can be faced. It doesn't have to have a fabric that is different. You can do exactly what I just did with the same fabric that your shirt is made from, or just plain white, every time you make a shirt, if it has a back yoke like this one does, which I think is kind of nice. Okay, so now comes a little bit of pressing and making sure that everything is done, you know, pressed out like it's supposed to be. And do they want us to do a top stitch? Yes, they want us to top stitch, which you would not do unless you've pressed. So we will press this up like so, and then do two, I think it's 2 rows or 1 row. Top stitch yoke close to the back seam at 1/4 inch away as shown. So you can see on this where they've got that top stitching, that, I mean, I think you probably would want to do it for appearance sake, but I also think you would want to do it because it helps keep these two pieces from kind of buckling in on each other, you know, at this point. I think it would look a lot nicer and neater if it were top stitched. Now, one thing to keep in mind is, do you want to use your construction thread, or do you want to use a different color thread for top stitching? And usually it's a different color thread. So if I wanted to, I could choose, that's gray, I don't think I'd want to do that. I do have light blue. I have, I have a darker blue, and I have a yellow. Sometimes blues and yellows look really nice together. I don't think any of these would be a good choice. So let's see what we got here. I don't know that I have anything else. Ooh, that's tempting, isn't it? Top stitching in this color might be kind of fun. And it perfectly matches the flower within this design. So let me show you what I mean. It's kind of hard to tell, but there we go. Alright, so it has been pressed. And of course I need to mention, like I do every time, if you have marked your garment with a friction ink pen, when you press anything, the markings will all disappear. So I just lost 3 or 4 marks that I knew I was going to lose. If you're worried about losing those marks, you can, if you're at the ironing board, and like for me, there's, some issues with walking, and you don't feel like coming back over to the sewing machine, keep pins, P-I-N-S, and I'm going to have to qualify that with glass head or crystal pins that can be ironed on at your ironing board. And then you can just put a pin in the spot, or cross over 2 pins on top of a dot, like the dot would be in the middle there. Just do that until you can get to your sewing machine or wherever your marking P-E-N is, and then you can remark it if you need to. Okay, I'm loading up the machine with the orange thread. Right. Reach in and pull out the rolled sections. We've done that. On the outside top stitch, we've done that. Then stitch the front to the back at the side seams. Okay, that's what this description looks like right there. Okay, so especially when you're working with stripes, you want to make sure that you get those side seams pretty well perfectly aligned. It would be difficult to have everything come out perfectly, but using pins really helps. I'm using a 2.5 seam allowance on both right and left side seams. It turned out really well. We'll just do the second side after we get the threads clipped. And if you wanted to finish that with lace tape or a pinking edge or a blanket stitch, you could. I'm not sure that it's completely necessary in this case, but I did like the way they turned out. Okay guys, so I just had some packages delivered. I think I know what this is, and I think it goes with Big Beast, the big camera. We're about to find out. Ooh, I hope it is. Non-fabric cutting scissors. Okay, not that. Yes. There it is right there. Remote Commander. Okay, so let's figure out what this does or does not do. From what I've read, it has a short cord. So if it, that was weird. If it has a short cord, okay, that's the weirdest looking silica I have ever seen, but there you go. Yeah, It kind of does have a short cord. I wanted to see for myself before I purchase an extension. Oh, it works. I love the fact that this works. This is so cool, you guys. I love that I don't have to reach up to push a button on the top of Big Beast. It works like a charm. I'm going to hang on to everything because I also think I can use this with Little Beast. But this is amazing. Pretty cool. The other thing in here is my personal item. I don't know what's in here. This literally could be a bra. I know I ordered one. I'm not going to show it, but if that's what this is. Let's just see. Oh, this is the interfacing. It's a fusible interfacing that I bought 2 yards of. It's 60 inches wide by 2 yards. And that's my bra. Okay. There's that. And then I have no idea what this could be. I bet it's the buttons, even though they weren't supposed to come yet. Let's see. Oh no! It's my key lime seeds. Awesome! Okay, so I know what I'll be doing this afternoon. Sow the seeds a ½ inch deep in moist soil. It's funny they have a comma, moist, comma, soil. Oh Lord. Keep the temperatures at 70 to 85 for best germination results. Plant trees in an area of full sun. Do not overwater. Cold sensitive. It's a small lime with excellent flavor. That is going to be exciting.